Hi, I'm Tyler Jewell. I am CEO of Akka, and this is a demo of Akka Specify, a new set of capabilities that we are now shipping with Akka that will enable you to do spec-driven development. This is approximately a 17 to 18 minute sequence that we're going to go through here. And what we're going to do is we're going to build an entire system and test it all together. Now, what is Akka Specify? Well, it is leveraging AI Assist, in this case, Claude, to implement a set of skills for doing spec-driven development. Spec-driven development is a structured working loop, a build loop, if you will, that allows you to specify requirements, get clarification from the AI on any ambiguity in your requirements, create an implementation plan, and then break that implementation plan down into a series of tasks, and then actually execute those tasks through implementation. And what we've done is that we now have built a whole series of things called skills. These are skills that you can run in more than 30 different AI assist environments that will execute this workflow alongside or within your AI assist. The workflow that you work within is off to the left here on the screen, but the actual application and demo that we're building is specified on the right. And what I did is you can, within Claude, buffer up a bunch of commands, and we're going to execute 5 commands here, all back to back to back. And the first one was Akka Specify, and this is an application that is for a venture capitalist. We call it VC. And it's going to be a web application for allowing people to submit an investment proposal, and then we're going to use AI to evaluate it. And we're going to mock the LLM calls. It worked just fine, but we're going to mock them because it's going to be just a little bit more performant from that. And there are some requirements about we don't want these proposals to be editable after they're created. How should the evaluation be? Should it be both human or AI? In this case, it's only going to be AI. And then after the specification is run, it identifies a whole series of requirements there. And then the plan command is the specifics on how it should be implemented. And in this particular case, we'd like to do it as an Akka service. And it's going to have agents. It's going to have agentic memory. There's going to be endpoints for being able to interact with that, and it's going to have a web application stylized in a certain way that we want it to build. And then we're going to tell it to break that down into a whole series of tasks, and then implement those tasks where it actually creates the code, runs some basic tests. And then akka.build will do a final build test and hot deployment of any changes and puts them into a runtime. And you'll see us will be able to interact with that runtime there. On the left of my screen, the far, far left of the screen is Claude. You can do this with Copilot. You can do this with Gemini CLI. This is using Claude Code. And we're executing those skills. And you can see Claude at this point in time still going through all of the context, and now it's starting to get to the point of like, okay, it's got the specification in place and it's going to start working on the plan. And one of the really interesting things is that it has this work, and beyond the skills that we've provided, there's also a whole series of Akka context that is sitting behind the scenes that understands the structure of how Akka applications should be put together. And so it has a very refined understanding of how these orchestrated systems should be composed and the different pieces that are there. And it's going through the work right now of trying to figure out what the plan should be and then the tasks that it could execute. This initial run is going to be about 12 minutes to build everything from scratch. This was an empty directory. We're building it all from scratch. But in most projects, what you're going to have is the feature already basically working, and then you just add new requirements one at a time, and you work in this sort of iterative approach until you're happy with the specification and the implementation therein, and then it will commit, and either you can then push it to your repo or deploy to one of Akka's regions here. Now, in spec-driven development, we are using a toolkit called spec-kit. It is widely used. We think it's the most well-structured. And spec-kit provides specifications. There's a concept called a constitution, and we've written an Akka constitution that lays down the standards and governance rules that you'll have. There's clarification where it asks you to explain ambiguous requirements. Plan, tasks, implement are all part of the sort of workflow that comes with a spec-driven development. Akka has added a couple of additional things here that go beyond what the typical SDD offering is. One is build. And build understands our runtime and clustering environment. So you can rapidly build, test, and hot deploy changes into a local cluster that is executing there. It will stand up the ports. It will check for the availability of the ports. It'll clean up any sort of lingering services that shouldn't be there, and to facilitate that sort of rapid iterative development cycle. And then Akka.deploy understands Akka cloud regions. This is both our public cloud region, that's at Akka serverless, console.akka.io, but it also understands your local regions. If you are one of our customers that runs an Akka region privately within your own environment, it wires up to that, and it will automatically push your changes there. Now, in a lot of enterprise environments, you're going to have your own tooling. You're going to have your own CI/CD system, your own GitOps methodologies. And so all of these skills are extensible to incorporate your own processes and your own templates, if that's what you want. And so if you don't want to enable people to deploy directly to that region, you can do an automatic Git. And you can actually add skills to this so that you can monitor how your GitOps flow is doing for development or production purposes. As you can see at this point in time, it's going into the implementation details, and it's going to take a bit of work there. And now I'm going to pause the audio, and we're going to use the magic of accelerated speed up of the video to get to the next phase where it's done most of the work. All right, welcome back. We're caught up here a little bit, and it is telling us that it has completed all the commands. It has run all the integration tests. They're all passing, and it started up the service. It continued to run more integration tests, and that the service is available on localhost 9000. And I brought up a browser here, and you can see that the app is running there. And here's our venture capitalist app. We've got to submit an application here, and this is going to be a request for $1 million of funding for this new startup, and this is going to be an amazing business. That's the proposal that I have. And so what's going to happen is it's going to submit that proposal. The agents are going to run working on it. We can see that we've got some nice notifications on there. Oh, and the work is done, and we can take a look at the evaluation, and it didn't give a very good confidence score. I guess just having the best business of all time isn't the bestest in that world. What's amazing about AI-assisted development is that the AI will learn from itself. And so in this case, if you were really paying attention to everything that was flowing through, Claude got into a couple of mistakes. And it ultimately figured out how to solve those problems, and it goes through kind of an iteration process of attempting different solves. But I like to ask it, what problems did it solve, and can we improve the context, either Akka's context or the project's context, so that these issues aren't encountered in the future? And it's going to come up and make a couple of recommendations. Now, when we first started building this sample application using this, the very first iteration that we did of this took about 40 to 50 minutes. And in this particular case, it was about 17 or 13 to 17 minutes before it got through that first iteration of the entire build. And that's because we've been learning to improve the context every time AI makes a mistake. And the tooling keeps getting better on how to detect issues, avoid those issues, and then updating the context. And it did all that work. And so not only did it find that context, I said, go ahead and update the project with that. And, if we wanted to, now I would ask, hey, for my organization, or at least my organizational policies, what would I need to do if I wanted to deploy this service in my own enterprise? And after it gets done updating all those sort of contexts, it's going to go through and it'll analyze the details of how the deployment skill works for my organization. And it will come back and provide a suggestion or two on what I would need to do if I wanted to just go ahead and deploy into one of these Akka Cloud environments. And so we're going to let this run. This is now generally available for people to make use of. In order to get your hands on it, you need to have the latest version of the Akka CLI. There are docs available that talk you through about how you set up a specification environment. And we're going to be rolling this out to our enterprise customers pretty shortly with instructions on how to integrate it into their own internal tooling and processes. And if you'd like to learn more or get a custom personalized demo with an application that you have in mind, just give us a call. You can write to me at tyler@akka.io. That's tyler@akka.io. And we'll follow up and get you set up with some spec-driven development and to have you help start building systems in a real rapid fashion.